G'day, cheeseheads, and welcome to tonight's Wednesday night rambling show, where we're going to discuss everything Spurs. Joining us tonight to talk director of football, manager, Kane, and everything in between, I'm joined by the amber nectar of the Cheese Room audio pod in Franco. Franco, how are you doing? Having a good week?
Truth be told, no, but I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go into that. Football-wise, yeah, I'm bored already, aren't you? It's like I've been watching Roma sadly beating Seville at the moment. But yeah, generally all is good. Sun is shining, etc.
Excellent. And also joining me, my regular nights and Wednesday night co-host and master of the John Dory, we have Gibbo. Gibbo, how have you been?
Yeah, all right, mate. My week's not been as bad by the sounds of it as Franco's. Yeah, it's not been too bad. Obviously, looking forward to talking about the manager search again, the director of football search again, and Harry Kane again. Can't wait.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of like what the season's been like, though, isn't it? There's been lots of things which have just been going on as a discussion point for ages, and then we're now in like the Nuno scenario again, where we're just waiting and waiting and waiting.
Yeah, and I think that wait may continue. But as we get into all of that, those listening, please do grab a few stubbies, get involved in the chat, give us your views, tell us what you think about what we're saying, anything you want us to talk about, any questions, post them in, and we'll do our best to get round to them. But before we get started, of course, make sure you all please do like and subscribe and make plenty of comments. So let's start with the big news of the day, breaking news. It was announced in a group chat I was in earlier that Kane was going in for talks with Levy today on the future of his contract and demanded a transfer. And then, of course, it quickly transpired that actually Kane was in America on the Good Morning America show. And, of course, the showdown talks with Levy was never actually a reality. Franco, Kane's all taking all the noise at the moment, understandably. Where are you at with the future of Kane?
I think it's very difficult, and we've kind of watched this happen over a number of seasons where you think if we don't push on, he's going to want to leave at some point. His contract's obviously been ticking away, and it looked very unlikely. You know, there was that period of time under Poch where all players would get new contracts every sort of like 18 months to 2 years, keeping all of the promising players that we wanted to keep. And that's not really been the case for a while, has it? And you can see that Kane has been weighing up his options. If he was really committed to the club, he would have signed another one probably a year or two ago. But he's not stupid. I think he's seen the way that it's going, and I don't really blame him for weighing up his options. I don't think we're going to see him sign a new contract. If we did, then it's the biggest sacrifice I think any footballer's ever made, because it's great to have these players that, you know, are a legend at their club, and he will be at Spurs regardless. He's given us the majority of his career. Now, whilst I think he's probably got quite a few years left in him, I can see him being a top striker until 35, 36. There's plenty of examples of that at the moment. You do feel like time is kind of running out on his career in terms of sort of one big move. The question is, like, who will that be? And is there a move in the Premier League that guarantees him anything? Man City aren't looking for a striker now, and they're probably the only ones that you think are guaranteed to probably win something each season. The other choices aren't that great. And if you risk going to like Chelsea or Arsenal or somewhere like that, even Man United, I think our fans would probably turn their noses up at that a little bit. So it's a difficult one for him because he doesn't want to ruin his legacy at Spurs, but he obviously probably wants to try and win some trophies while he's still got some strength in his legs. So I think personally that he'll stay till the end of next season, and that's why I think this season is going to be massive. We need to get some players in to support him and push on. If at the end of the season he sees there's a chance of some progress and maybe some silverware, then he might sign again. But I can't see it this year.
Gibbo, are you hopeful he stays this summer?
I think he will stay this summer, mate. I'm with Franco. I think pretty much he's getting all the power now. So I can't see us selling him. The money we'll want for him, I don't see anybody paying for him. Possibly abroad, but then I don't think he does want to go abroad. So I think he can stay at Spurs. He knows he'll get goals. He knows he'll play. He'll be the main man. Probably be captain next year. Well, he definitely will be captain. So unless something comes along that he really, really wants. I think Man U would possibly be his only destination at the moment. They're always, if in doubt, spend a few quid, Man U. But whether they'd stump up, the money we'd want, I don't know what they're talking about. 100 million, weren't they? But like, it's we can't replace him, can we? It's going to take 2 players to replace him. So is the money we could get going to be worth it next season, or are we better off keeping him, trying to push on, and hopefully, like Franco said, getting him to sign that contract? I think that's our best option as a club.
How much would it cost, Franco, to get him out? What do you reckon Levy pushes a button on?
It's really difficult, isn't it? Because like Gibbo just said, I mean, we've mentioned it on the pod as well. Like in recent weeks, he's been the one player who's been giving 9 out of 10 performances regularly. And you look at the work he does dropping deep. He's that one player that links things up. When he's got the ball, you've got, the idea that he's the one that's going to make the right pass and create chances, score goals in those positions. You always have your money on him. So, and what is it? He's got 30 goals this season again.
Yeah.
It's only because of Haaland being an absolute freak. Kane would have taken the golden boot again. He's an absolute phenomenon. And I don't know how you put a price on that. You look at some of the money they're paying for certain players, you think, well, Kane's probably worth 150 million. And I know he's got 1 year left, and that obviously, the clock is ticking on that one. He gets devalued by the day, but I don't think it makes any sense to try and sell him for less than sort of 90, 80, 90 million in the market. That's what he's worth to us. How many players would you have to probably buy, like you say, Gibbo, to get that? Because you're right, you can stick with Richarlison. He can be our target man. He can be the centre forward, but he's never going to deliver what Kane does, which means you need to get some real quality in sort of the supporting positions. And I'm not sure you can do it for that sort of money, because I think that the top players that would do that would be commanding similar fees. Yeah. So it's really difficult. I mean, we've got ourselves in a bit of a shit situation with him, to be fair. And you can only really blame the owners for that one. Yeah. So, it's going to have to be big money. And I agree. I don't see the point. I just say keep him for another year, because he's going to be worth that to us.
Is the shit situation... Yeah, is the shit situation, though, Franco, because we've let it run down to this point? Because where was the opportunities in the last 3 years, if you like, to potentially extend that contract? It probably never existed because of the way we were.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly that. I don't think we've created that opportunity. I think moving into the new stadium, and in some respects, I can see that Levy's tried to sort of keep players happy by getting in the big name managers. Jose, I get that feeling he always wanted him, but it's also the gravitas that he brings with it, and maybe thought, right, working with Jose might keep some of these players. If we have a good season, we might be able to kick on with Kane. But he didn't arguably back those managers. They've certainly left disgruntled at the way that they've been treated at Spurs, and that kind of feeds in. Like, everybody's going to know it. Everyone in the club will know it, and they think, well, what's the point in getting in these managers if you're not then going to support them? And I would imagine that Kane understands that situation with the chairman. So he's probably quite torn, isn't he? I can't imagine he's going to be sticking around for Levy. But he's probably sticking around for the fans. So yeah, we've not, but that's again because the situation that's been created. We've never really created a situation where he would want to be signing and could see us progressing. I think that's the issue.
I think the club have, Gibbo and I have talked about this over the last few weeks. I think the club have done a great job of guilt tripping him into staying.
Yeah,
it's quite funny, isn't it? The amount of gone round the Kane this season and everything else is quite interesting.
I'd imagine that they're going in his house and pricking the condoms to make sure he's having more kids. They're just like, all right, let's keep him in London.
Keep banging them out. Keep popping them out. Yeah. But like, Franco, what are your thoughts on it? I've seen people discuss with people this week where they've said, give him what he wants. Give him the keys to Tottenham Hotspur. Now, obviously, Kane is arguably the best player I've ever seen play for Spurs. He's greatest ever goal scorer. But is that a slightly dangerous precedent to set? Or do you think if that's what they can do to keep him, that's what they should do? Because I'm a little bit like...
The keys to Tottenham Hotspur? Well, is that a real thing?
Yeah, well, just
give him a part of the club.
Basically, just make him... I find that... I'm not sure you can do that no matter how great he is.
No, I think that would be a strange precedent to set.
Yeah.
And, lots of big clubs have had absolute legends play for them. Like it's like Roma giving Totti or something like that, saying, right, you can be part of it. They never did. So no, I think that's and I don't think he's motivated by that. You look at him, all the accolades he's got, they're all personal accolades.
Yeah.
They're all goal scoring records that he's got, and player of the season, etc. I think the one thing that he really wants is trophies, because even if he doesn't necessarily think it himself, there's definitely a perception outside of the football club, in the wider football community. Some people saying that if you don't win trophies, you can never be considered a truly great player. Obviously, anybody that's seen Kane play would completely argue with that. But, there is an argument that when you look back at somebody's career, some of it will be what trophies have they won, which is harsh because it's a team game. So it's difficult because he's spying himself by staying at Spurs. He's making it difficult for himself. And I don't know whether it'd be enough for him to be a club legend. I'd love it. If you imagine if Kane stayed until he was like 36, 37, just be an absolute scoring phenomenon, probably easily break the Premier League scoring records at Spurs, etc. But I can see why he would be tempted to go somewhere else.
Of Blackburn. Shearer obviously had the luxury of being at Blackburn before. And if you look at his career with Newcastle, when he first went there, they were getting Champions League football. Then obviously, as the longer he stayed there, the worse they got, didn't they? They never won. They got to a couple of cup finals, never won anything, and he stayed there. But he'd won the Premier League, but that was very early in his career, not with that club. Obviously, it still counts, but Shearer, I should imagine, still could have gone anywhere until a certain, when he was Kane's age, couldn't he? But he decided to stay.
Yeah, but it's even like I remember younger Steven Gerrard as well, and people were saying he should leave, but then obviously Liverpool went and won stuff, and it was all kind of that decision was vindicated. But it's difficult. Obviously, there's only 3 domestic trophies to win each season, and there's a lot of teams competing for it now. When you've got Newcastle, there are like 6 or 7 big clubs, and then you've got the top performing clubs like Brighton. It's going to be it's not going to be any easier next season. That's the issue I've got.
What club can he leave to in the Premier League, whether it's on a free or this summer, where his standing with us fans remains?
Well, I think probably United is the only logical choice, and even then, like I said, I don't think we'd be happy with it. But he can't go to Chelsea, he can't go to Arsenal, and I don't know whether he'd really want to leave and move somewhere else. So his choice is he really going to go to Liverpool? Is that any more of a sure thing at the moment? Probably not. It's not easy.
City's the only sure thing, isn't it? City's the only sure thing.
Yeah, I think that boat sailed there, hasn't it? That boat sailed.
Definitely, that boat sailed. Yeah.
I mean, I guess it depends what happens with Haaland, whether next season he goes to Real Madrid, which is the rumour, isn't it, at the end of next season. Do they take him, or do they then go for the next shiny thing?
How many goals has he got till he hits Shearer's record?
It can't be that many more.
I thought it's 50, something around 50.
Yeah, I had a feeling he could do it within a season or 2.
I mean, there's no reason why he couldn't stay at Spurs. He may even, if next year, obviously, is a big if everything goes to plan, he could just add another year onto his contract, couldn't he?
Yeah.
I know, as stupid as it sounds, we could win the League Cup, couldn't we? We could win the FA Cup.
Yeah.
The way it's going to be for us, we'll be played like the FA Cup will be played on a weekend, so it's not we will have less midweek games. So there's a good chance we could win something. So he could, in theory, not sign a new long contract, but he could, they could work something out, and he could break that record, maybe win a League Cup, which I know some people not, but trophy's a trophy. And then he could end up having that situation where he breaks that record, and then he goes off to Madrid or somewhere else to win trophies.
47 goals. He can do that in 2 seasons easily.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, motivated, fully motivated in a team playing. I mean, he scored those in basically a team where he creates the goals and scores the goals.
How would you feel, Gibbo, if he stays with us next season, 30 goals, he then goes to United and breaks the record at United? Do you feel cheated by that? Would you feel cheated by that?
I wouldn't feel cheated, mate. I wouldn't feel cheated. I mean, I don't want him to go. I'd like him to do what.
No, you don't. But if he
once he leaves,
the record,
he's left. I don't care.
is the record as much a Tottenham record as it is a Kane record? Do you see what I mean?
Not really.
No, you don't
mate,
subscribe to that narrative.
I genuinely mean this, man. I do not want Kane to leave. I want him to stay and do what Franco says, and I really hope he does that. But if he left and went to Man United, that would be it for me. He's gone. He's gone to Man United. Forget about it. Move on. You know, we've seen great players leave Spurs. All of us. We've seen, you know, when I first started supporting, Hoddle left. We've seen Sheringham leave. We've seen, like, you know, Klinsmann was here and left for a bit. We've had great players. Bale. We never thought it'd get any better when Bale left. Yet, strangely enough, we did get better. You know, so if he goes eventually, they all leave. It will go. But if he goes, mate, and stays in England and breaks that record somewhere else, fair play to him. It won't bother me. I won't really care. But
yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It's very interesting. Either way, do you think, in terms moving ahead to very quickly jump ahead to the new manager hunt, is the promise of Kane staying next season important to any potential new manager, Franco?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's the one good thing about this team this season, isn't it? There's very few positives to be taken from this squad at the moment. So I think that it would be essential that Kane, and I think any manager coming in would want guarantees on that, that you wouldn't be sold, and then they can spend the year trying to convince him. But yeah, otherwise, I mean, we've already got positions that we need to fill. We've already got, you know, the issues where we've kind of been set up for this 5 at the back. And that might not be other preferred managers' choices. So there's lots of work that needs to be done with this squad. We've talked about all the loan players and stuff that need to be moved on. I think if you had to then find another sort of star player to lead your front line, yeah, I don't think any manager would be up for that.
So interesting, isn't it? Well, let's hope that there's a masterstroke and Levy announces a new contract for him.
But, you know, there's Stewie who says, I think he stays long term. I'm obviously being extremely positive, but I think if we do all right next year, I can see him extending. You know, like I said, not maybe like 4 or 5 years, but I think there's a possibility he can do something that just ticks him over until you know, he can sort of say, that's it, I've done my stint, now I'm off.
In that camp with Stu, but I was in that camp. I thought he would sign a contract this year, and I think the way the season, hasn't it? Well, exactly. I think we all had high hopes for the season, particularly the way we started it. And thought, you know, okay, this could be a good season. He likes what's going on with Conte. He'll commit and he'll sign a new contract. It's turned out the way it has. Now I'm less convinced that he'll sign.
Yeah, I mean he's 30, isn't he? Yeah, 30 in a month.
On a second note, like you and Franco, do you think he's thought? Like, obviously, we've had the likes of Mourinho and Conte in. Do you think in his mind he'll be thinking, well, I need to see like them bringing an ambitious appointment, or do you think he'll be thinking, I just need a guy who I can get behind or I can follow? Do you think he'll be wanting a big name appointment, or do you think he just wants to see somebody who can change the fortunes of the club? Or do you get what I mean? What do you think is important to him with the next?
Go on, Craig.
Do you think if we did appoint Ange, he'd go, fucking hell, he's Australian like everyone else is doing?
Yeah. I think
he's Australian.
I think he's talked, as Kane's talked openly and articulately in the Sky Sports interview about the culture of the club. And I think he talks about wanting to get the culture right back at the club and get the right feelings in the players and amongst the collective. And I think that's really important to him. And it's bringing a manager in that's going to be cohesive and collaborative and engaging and unite the players and unite the fans, unite the board, everyone behind this common vision. I think that's really, for me, that's what I think is really important to Kane. So I think that's what I'm looking forward about. I think Mourinho and Conte, as good as they were in different ways, they aren't what you would call they're not managers that bring the group of players together, are they, under a clear vision and a clear culture? It's very much short-termism. And I think what Kane wants is back to what we had at the peak of Poch in terms of the culture. Everyone knowing exactly what's expected of him in the group, knowing what's expected in the team and going out and delivering it. So that's what I think he wants. Just that for me. Franco, what do you think?
Well, Yeah. I don't think it makes a huge difference to him now. He's worked under enough decent quality coaches. I think it's more about, like you said, the way that it's the effect it's going to have on the club and the team spirit, but also like the system they're going to play. I think he probably I can't imagine Kane has enjoyed some of the football we've played because he's been having to bust a gut to create opportunities. And I think I think everybody in the club just wants somebody that's going to be a bit more forward thinking and can play some slightly more exciting football. And score some goals is what he's about, isn't it? I'll just put this comment out from Paul because it's interesting. Like, I don't know. I don't think it would affect him in a negative way because like he's had no ankles for like 5 years or something like that, isn't he? He plays through pain, I'd imagine, every single game. And I think, Kane will just run himself into the ground. Probably wouldn't surprise me if he's in a wheelchair by the age of 40 or something. So, I don't think he would be worried about a big move. Like I said, at the end of next season, he's going to be 31 years old. And at that point, he's probably still going to get a big move. You've got players like Dzeko, Giroud,
Lewandowski.
Yeah, Benzema, all of the top quality strikers in the world, apart from Kane and Haaland, are quite old. So, I think it's a position now where pace is not as important as maybe sometimes in football it has been. And I think someone like Kane can keep going for years, even if he kind of maybe drops deeper and plays in a slightly different system, doesn't lead the line. I think he's got enough about his game where he's not just a one-trick pony at all, is he?
Yeah, no, totally agreed. 66 people watching. Please do like and subscribe. Continue to put your comments in, questions, and we'll do our best to get through them. I guess moving on, the comments have sort of naturally gone this way as well. You will know in the news this week that Ange Postecoglou, the Celtic manager, is becoming fast the bookies' favourite. And if you believe what's in the press, is Levy's new number one choice to take over the reins at Tottenham Hotspur. It's being proved quite decisive, isn't it, amongst the fan base? It's very much a 50-50 split. What do you make of it, Franco? Where are you at? Are you Postecoglou in or out?
I'm glad you're pronouncing his name right. I need to learn this one. It seems to me like the most likely at the moment. And it's a weird one because he's one of these managers that people's biggest problem seems to be that he's not managed at any of the top 5 leagues and he's not really got that experience. I mean, it's a little bit, I don't know what to say. He's the first, Australian manager to manage in Europe, right? And it's not like Australia don't know anything about sport. They clearly do. They're pretty good at a lot of them. And he's kind of come through that system. He's managed some of their golden era when they're Tim Cahill, Viduka, and that he was sort of around the Australia setup, wasn't he? He's got lots of experience, and all right, it's not at the big clubs, but I just think sometimes people put too much weight on that. And yes, he's maybe not got the experience, but he's now played in the Champions League. He's lost to Leipzig, which is Jose did that for us, so he's got that experience. And I think that's the one thing is he's a bit unproven and he's a bit old. I think if he had a similar lack of experience, but was 43 years old, then people would be like, he's an exciting upcoming manager. He just needs an opportunity. But it's just that age thing, isn't it? He seems a bit old. But I really wanted to research before this managers that came into their prime when they were later, but I didn't do it. Sorry, but I bet there's a few out there. I bet there is a few.
Redknapp, really?
Yeah.
When Redknapp, he didn't really hit. He'd been around the block, hadn't he? But he didn't really reach like the heights of when people start. When he came to us, that was like probably his peak in management.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's even I'm trying to think like Avram Grant when he turned up at Chelsea. Nobody had really heard of him. He wasn't vastly experienced, and he was on the older side, wasn't he? He'd only managed in Israel, the Israeli team, and then he got the job at Chelsea. All right, he wasn't a massive success, but he showed that he could. He was a competent manager. And I think, Ranieri as well. You're probably right.
Well, if Roy Hodgson could come out of retirement and get Crystal Palace playing like Brazil at 75 years old, then there's hope for Postecoglou at whatever old he is, however age he is.
I think the thing with Postecoglou is that if you look in, like I said to you, Craig, I didn't really have much of a clue about of anything he's done. But if you look into what his strengths are, he's not afraid to, I think like for Australia, he went in and he got rid of some of the players that had been there like some of the old guard. He was straight in, got in, look, this, and then and he spoke to him in a way that they sort of took it. And he went to Celtic, and I think within 2 transfer windows, there were 2 players left that had been there from the season where they finished 30 points behind Rangers. So he's done big rebuilds. And then if you see the other stuff, what he's like, he unites even the people around the club. Because there's talk about, the people who work around Spurs aren't happy being there. It's not a happy place. And that's what he's good at, pulling people together. So all the sort of things that Tottenham need are his strengths. And also, as well, apparently his football's transferable. He plays a decent brand of football. So, and we talk about looking at his CV, and I see people earlier bringing up De Zerbi's CV. If De Zerbi hadn't gone to Brighton and we'd have tried to get him now, people would be like, "Who's this bloke? What's he done?"
Yeah.
So it's all about. But Brighton were brave enough to take a punt on him. That he was the guy they wanted. Didn't matter what his CV was. He was going to take them on from Potter. And you just got to be a little bit more open-minded. I don't think we're in a position where we go, no, we want Nagelsmann and that is it. Because he could come in and fail. They're all a risk.
Yeah, and I think it is an age thing. Like I said, if it was in a similar situation and he was younger, I think we'd be a lot happier with it. But look, you've also got to understand that when you grow up in Australia and that's where you manage, and then the other places he's managed, like, Japan or whatever, it's that sort of Far East location, isn't it? So it's a big step to come over to Europe, and then and not many people, the way that it works, not many people are going to give you that opportunity. And I don't know exactly how the Celtic one worked out, but he got his opportunity at Celtic and he's done well with it. But even when he was in Japan, I looked today, what's it that you won them their first league title in the second season in 15 years. So it's like he's clearly got something about him. I know they're a massive, their stadium is bigger than ours. They're a well-supported club, but he still does seem to have that sort of transformative ability about him. And he's, like you say, he's not afraid to tell him how it is. And I think we need that. We need somebody that's going to go in there with the bollocks to tell the players, the ones that we don't want, to get rid of them, and the ones that aren't performing well enough to put a rocket up their arse. And I think he seems to have that about him.
Yeah. I mean, there are some really good things. I mean, I went down a rabbit hole the other day on YouTube of watching clips of Postecoglou and some of his inspirational team talks and things that he's done. I mean, I remember doing the same thing about Fonseca actually, and coming away thinking this guy's the best thing ever. But but there's clearly strengths to Postecoglou. Why, Gibbo? Why is it proving so divisive amongst the fan base? Is it the fact that he's Australian? Is it the fact that he comes from the J League in Australia and Celtics are in Scotland? What is it?
A little bit of all of it, really. It's like, depends where you're getting your info from, doesn't it? Because like Twitter's the most divisive platform out there. It's just like a cesspit, really, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like I saw somebody today put there was a poll: if Ange gets the Tottenham job, will you support him? 75% was no, and I'm like, this fucking bloke ain't even been, and we're sort of already. It is just a divisive platform, mate. So it depends where you get it from. If you speak to people like we in our sort of like little groups, Craig, people are open to it, and there's more acceptance to it. But you just open it up to people who want to be. There's people out there who want to be negative. There's people out there who want to think the worst of it. And I think people like just Nagelsmann's out there, and they think he's the best thing since sliced bread. But Nagelsmann would be my first choice, but we're not going to go down that route. So we're looking at the other options, and you've got to sort of just be a bit open-minded to it. When we appointed Nuno, I gave him a chance. I mean, it turned to shit at the end, but like at least I thought, well, he did a decent job at Wolves for a bit, and I thought if he can sort of unite the players like he did at Wolves, because that's what happened to Wolves. They absolutely loved it round the club when Nuno in the early days there, the first couple of seasons when they came up in the first 2 seasons or whatever in the Premier League, and then it just sort of he changed system and everything, and it went wrong. But mate, I don't know. I just think some people do like to be negative. People don't want to open their mind. Like I said to you, I've sort of like done a little bit of homework on it and sort of come round to the idea. So, but I don't know, mate. I just think people genuinely like to shit all over stuff.
Yeah, I mean, some people on Twitter are genuinely negative, and
Yeah.
also you got to, it's the echo chamber part of it, isn't it? Where people
Yeah.
that follow certain people will have similar views about stuff.
Yeah.
And there does seem to be a large swathe of Spurs fans who their entire experience is just being miserable. So
Yeah.
like, I don't take too much too seriously on that. And I did see something today about somebody saying that, we need a manager with gravitas. Well, we've had that. We've done that with Jose. We've done that with Conte, and it's made all difference, to be fair, hasn't it? Like, we didn't enjoy the football under him. If anything, I'll keep reiterating it. We need somebody that's going to play exciting football and make it entertaining and enjoyable to go to this 60,000 seat stadium, because the atmosphere has been sucked out of it by some of the football. We just need something to go there and get off our feet and actually enjoy going back to the lane. That's the most important thing for me. I just want to be entertained. Obviously, trophies are an important part of it, but like, you spend a lot of your time watching this and talking about it. Like, I'd rather talk about something that was enjoyable than just like, yeah, we won 1-0. It's really pragmatic or whatever. Like, it's that's what we need more than anything. And also the other thing about players and managers, it's never an exact science. There's players that you think, right, they did brilliant at this club, they sign for another team and it doesn't work out, and then they end up going out the back door. I mean, Man United have just spent money for fun for the last 5-6 years, and like half of their signings, absolute dross. But we kind of forget about that, and we focus so much on our players that don't succeed. But I think it's difficult to say exactly what we need for a manager, but as long as it ticks some of the boxes, then I'm happy. And I think that the most important ones for me are like style of play. I'm not really so fussed about their experience or where they were born.
Yeah, this is an interesting point.
Style of play.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry,
no, carry on. I was just going to say you want to.
I was just going to. Yeah, style of play is important. Yeah, no, great. Yeah. Sorry, I was just going to say, Ian's put a good comment on here. I was going to say this actually, and it's a really good point. Wenger came from the J League. Just saying, it's so true. And I remember when Wenger came, there was, to Arsenal, there's probably similar calls about who's this guy, but look what he did. So if it's good enough for Wenger, why not us? Interesting. The other thing I just want to touch on, just going through the comments. Daniel Wright been saying he's very anti he's Postecoglou out, I think for sure. And he made this, we should have stuck with Conte. Conte, we didn't stick with Conte. Conte wanted to go. He quit. It was the greatest public resignation you'll ever see in your life. So I think we all wanted to stick with Conte, but it was never going to happen. So we are where we are. Just on style of play, Gibbo, what your bit of research you've done into Postecoglou, what's his style of brand? What are we going to expect to see if he does join? Well,
I think you've seen the video today where he's shouting, "Stop passing it back." That was it. I was done there, mate. I was sold at that point, mate. That was enough for me. I was Ange in straight away. Yeah. I can imagine him shouting at Højbjerg. And I like Højbjerg, you know that. I can imagine him berating him. Stop hitting wall passes back to the centre half. But I was sold then. But I'm not very tactically astute, mate. But I think, the fullbacks push up into midfield, that they push the whole team up high, swamp the team in their half, and just literally suffocate them and try and play forward and try and win games.
Yeah. Franco, you would have seen on my rabbit hole journey into Postecoglou over lunch today, I come across this short video, and it's Postecoglou absolutely losing his nut with his defenders, basically, and screaming at them, "Stop passing it back, pass it forward, pass it forward." It was brilliant. And I think I put it in the group chat. I knew Gibbo would appreciate it, because some of our criticisms have been about how we're not very progressive with the ball. So what do you think we'll get, Franco?
Yeah, I did see that on Twitter as well, to be honest. He's got a good shout on him, which is important. Yes. It reminds me.
It's a loud shouter.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing is that he's shown some tactical flexibility, and that's another thing that we need. Like, I was winding Seb up today because he said he wanted somebody that was tactically flexible. And I said, "Oh, so you'd be up for Graham Potter then?" And he's not a fan of Graham Potter. But I mean, there's an argument there. If Potter hadn't gone to Chelsea and stuffed it up so badly there, he is the sort of manager you'd want. But it's like, that's the problem. You look at him and everyone's going, "Yeah, Potter's a great manager, goes to Chelsea, doesn't work out, and now he's tainted and his reputation is damaged." But he's still a good manager. He's flexible within games, will change things up depending on the opposition subs and opposition changing tactics. So he's a real thinker. And it's whether yeah, it's just what sort of manager
He'd be
you want. And I
ideal.
think it probably would. Yeah, but I mean, I don't think he's going to be. You know, him and Brendan Rodgers are not high on people's lists.
No.
But I don't know who is, because it doesn't. Another post I saw today was like, we need somebody that ticks all of the boxes that everyone wants, and I'm not sure there is a manager out there that does that. Like Nagelsmann is probably the best, like you've said, Gibbo, because he's clearly an exciting young manager who plays a decent brand of football, but he's also a bit weird. And I don't know whether the fans would necessarily warm to him that much. But like Ange seems like he's just a good bloke. And who doesn't like Aussies? All of our Aussie cheeseheads are great.
Yeah. No, agreed. All for the Aussies. Franco, Gibbo, are we? Obviously, it's looking like it's going to be. Well, today's rumor will look is going to be Postecoglou. Are you? Would that be your first pick now? Or are you still Nagelsmann or another person ahead of Postecoglou?
Who's this? Me?
But both of you. I'll start with you, Gibbo, and then
I'm mate. I just want them to get the right person in now. I mean, like I said, Nagelsmann would be my first choice, and I'd like Potter as well. But if they're going to go down the route of Postecoglou, I can live with that. I'm sort of at that point. I haven't really got like a first choice, and I want him, and anything else is sort of like a downward. Will send us on a downward spiral. I really just want them to get the bloke who they think is right, back him in the way that he needs to be backed. And I don't mean like just buying in players, by allowing him to, do whatever he wants, sell whoever he wants. And that's all I want now. And I don't even, if I'm honest, a lot of people don't want Brendan Rodgers, but I don't think if we got people, I know there's people who hate Brendan Rodgers, but I don't think he'd be as bad as people make out if we got Brendan Rodgers. I don't want it because I think he's a plum. But like, I don't think he'd be as bad as we make out he'd be. It's just, I think we just want, a lot of people sort of want Nagelsmann, and it's like anything else is second rate. And we're just looking at everybody's gauging this, aren't they, to when we got Nuno.
Yeah. Oh, a Newcastle fan. Jeez, got your Saudi money. You'll feel big time. The interesting comment about Eddie Howe got relegated. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm not saying that I think Potter is tainted for that. I'm just saying that's a general perception from people now. It's not. If you're talking about who's going to be a popular appointment at the moment, I don't think that Potter would be, and I certainly don't think Rodgers would be, having basically got Leicester relegated with a pretty decent side. Like there's different times. Rodgers, when he was at his absolute peak and heyday, everyone would have probably been behind that. I remember people wanting him to sign, but stuff happens in careers, doesn't it? And I think Potter, he's on the back burner for a bit now, isn't he? It's too soon for him.
Yeah,
but if we wanted Potter, we could have got him, couldn't we? Already, we could have gone in. The season finishes or whatever, we could have gone in and got that deal done, couldn't we?
Yeah, I can't see any reason not. I did see another comment earlier. I missed. It's gone too far up now. But about how Ange is free. So it's probably Dave. That sounds like a Dave comment.
It was a Dave comment.
Yeah.
He's on a year rolling contract. Big Ange is.
There you go. We'd be cheap. Therefore, Levy wants him. Yeah, there's probably an aspect to that as well. It's a lot easier when you have to pay out money for a manager, and he's probably not going to want a lot either. Like coming from Celtic, you probably can't command that big a fee. But look, I don't think that's the entire reason. It makes no sense, Dave, does it? Otherwise, you wouldn't have just got two of the most expensive managers in football and hired them on contracts and had to pay out when we sacked them as well. So, yeah, as much as you're having fun with your Levy bashing, I don't think that one makes any sense.
You'd think Dave has an agenda, wouldn't you, with some of his I've just got I've got a question from the patron group, because we asked in our patron group from Dan Markin, and he said, do you think there is a risk that Ange will turn us down in favour to have another go at the Champions League with Celtic?
No. Only because it's not like they did very well. They got in the group stage, didn't they? But they only drew 2 games, wasn't it, against Shakhtar? Drew against Shakhtar, lost. Was it Real Madrid was in their group with Leipzig? Yeah, and they got spanked by them. So yeah, I mean, I don't think Celtic have got much of a chance in the Champions League. So I don't think he's going to stick around to have a bash at that. Look, I mean, we're clearly more attractive proposition than Celtic. He's made his way over to the Northern Hemisphere now, so like Celtic down to Spurs is not that far. And at the age, he's in his sort of mid-50s, it's a perfect opportunity for him to go to a big club. So look, I think we're an attractive proposition for Ange, and that probably is part of it as well, because we're saying this in the pod at the weekend, like we're not hugely attractive to managers at the moment. Like we've just shown that we don't treat top quality managers particularly well. We've had 2 of them leave on bad terms. So it doesn't seem like that attractive a proposition to be. And the sort of manager we need is one that is up and coming and needs to prove himself. Whilst, I don't think Ange is necessarily the best solution. I think there are others out there. I wouldn't be thoroughly disappointed with it. I wouldn't. It's fine. Right.
Do you think the part of the criticism of Postecoglou is the lack of success in the Champions League with Celtic? Do you think it's fair to measure that being Celtic? I mean, Scottish football has got its limitations, hasn't it, in terms of finances and everything else? So the quality of squad's always going to be limited in comparison to what you would have in the Premier League. Not a fair comparison. Would you agree with that, Franco?
Yeah, it's not. It's you're already handicapped, and like I think. In this first season, you didn't get through the group stages, and not the group stages, the qualifying stages, so you didn't get into the group. And, last year they did, which is sort of progress, but then you got a really difficult group. Like we probably wouldn't have got out of Real Madrid and Leipzig in the group. So you had a difficult start anyway. And, you look at how they've done in the league, they were clearly focused on that. So, no, I think it's a bit harsh to sort of judge his Champions League credentials on that. But you look at everywhere else he's gone. He's turned teams around and he's been successful, apart from, who is it, like Whittlesea or somewhere, like some random place in Australia where he managed. But, and I think he's got years of experience. We should look at that as a positive. Look, I'm not saying he's my number one choice, but I would not be disappointed if we got him. I think it would be an interesting change.
Interesting. Moving on then, I guess a part of the structure that is not getting as much coverage in the back papers is our director of football hunt, or proposed new director of football hunt. Gibbo, where is that at the moment? How's that progressing? What's the latest? Are we close to appointing someone?
No clue, mate. Didn't someone apparently turn us down from Leverkusen? Is he at?
The German guy.
This week, the German guy, turned us down. So I haven't got a clue where they are with that, mate. There was talk the other day that we weren't going to get a director of football, that we were going to get a head of recruitment. So we don't know how that is going to work at all, do we? I don't think any of us know.
No, and that's the thing with these job titles. You don't really know where the responsibilities lie. It could be anywhere, couldn't it? You've got, the Scott Munn, and he's football operations or whatever his title is, but then some of that could be building a scouting network and working with a head scout or something like that and making some of these decisions, but you don't know. But interestingly as well, like he knows Ange as well, doesn't he? So there is a sort of a synergy there, which might work. But I don't know whether we necessarily need a director of football, but you just need a manager that can come in and identify signings. And it feels like there's more work than just a director of football. What I really would have hoped that Paratici would have been done for the last year and a half he was there is actually develop a bit of a scouting network, but it doesn't really seem like much of that's happened. I know we've kind of got a few gems. We've got Udogi come in and we signed a few youngsters, but it doesn't really feel like we've got that network there.
Yeah, we've got 2 performance directors, Greta Steinson, the Iceland guy, and there's another guy, and I can't remember his name. I'm sure someone in the group chat will tell us. But there, I wonder whether between them, Greta Steinson was a head of recruitment at previous clubs. If you look at his past life, so in the UK as well, so he's got history of that. I do wonder whether we're going to see more of a promotion of these guys, or the structure that sits below is going to take more of a dominant role or prominent role under Munn, as opposed to a director of football per se. And I think it's quite interesting. There's been a lot of noise, hasn't there, about who's making the decision to sign Kulu, who's making the decision to take back Danjuma. It's all Levy. Levy's making decisions until he gets rid of his grip. And I'm sort of the view, well, actually, I think the Kulu and the Danjuma decision was probably made a long, long time ago and was already agreed, and it's just enacting what was already there. But we have got a larger structure. Alistair Gold's written about it a few times, about the number of people in that scouting structure now that sort of sits underneath. It's all a bit confusing, but it's there. headed up by Greta Stuyvesant and the other guy. But it's interesting, isn't it? We'll see what happens there. But I think when you don't have the names, that we're not seeing any names, you start to wonder whether there's a bigger plan at play.
Yeah, no, agreed. And the thing is, like, who really cares? Like, it's not like everyone. Yeah. Could you name 5 directors of football? I couldn't.
Only the ones we've been linked with, Franco. You can reel them off, and then that's your list, isn't it?
Well, exactly. And our resident German expert HG said that this German guy that turned us down is the Brendan Rodgers of director of football. So I'll take HG on his word for that, and not be at all bothered. But it's that thing, like you don't know. Like, you remember when we got Frank Arneson all those years ago? It was like director of football, and he just basically bought about 15 players no one had ever heard of. And some of them turned out to be all right. Some of them turned out to be rubbish. And Chelsea were like, right, we need this guy. Gave us a load of money for him. And then we got Comolli, and nobody had heard of him. And nobody had probably heard of Baldini particularly. It's like they're not prominent in the football world unless you really know your stuff. And nobody really knows, what their scouting networks, how good they are identifying players, etc. They're almost an unknown commodity. But what we need is somebody that's going to be able to work with whatever manager we get, and we don't know that either. Sometimes I just feel like we feel like we need to have opinions on this stuff too much. Like, what happens to just going to football matches talking about how rubbish we were? You know what I mean? We're obsessed with the minutiae of these things, which we don't know too much about. We just don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because
it's important.
Sorry, Gibbo, I was just saying, it is interesting. You make a good point, Franco, because it wasn't that long ago when you couldn't even really name the chairman of a football club. The people that run or own the football club are just people behind the scenes, administrators and all that sort of stuff. Whereas we have this unhealthy obsession, I think, with understanding everything about the owners, everything about these directors of footballs or head of recruitments, whatever they are. And it is interesting, isn't it?
Well, the problem is now is that football is such an important part of football that chairman and signing of players has become a big thing. And because this idea of like continuity, like managers come and go like the wind, don't they? Whilst before you felt like when a manager was at a club, he was the figurehead for that club for X amount of years. And only if they, things really fell off a cliff would they leave. And I just think now it's more about the club and this sort of like Bayern Munich almost idea model. They were sort of one of the first to sort of have this structure where like it didn't matter who came into coach, and there's other examples of it. It doesn't really matter who comes into coach because they've got this back structure. People are playing the same, like the Ajax way as well. They have a defined way of playing all the way through the coaching structure, and then anyone that comes in at youth age or whatever, they get taught how to coach in a similar way, and the players come through the system like that. And that's really what I think we've been wanting to do for years, and it's sort of just not ever really been realised.
Absolutely, and partly because I think you're right. Levy's definitely been trying to do that, hasn't he? And I think he's the first chairman. We're the first club in the UK, really, in England, where I think we've actively gone out and tried to go down this director of football routes. We started it, I think, with
Pleat.
I can't remember his name.
Pleat.
We went to Chelsea.
Arneson. Pleat did that.
Before, was it Pleat before Arneson? I can't remember now. That's a really good point.
He was like a consultant.
Pleat. Yeah, but he's still involved now, isn't it, Pleat, behind the scenes?
He was just in the background, so if anyone got sacked, he'd take over for a bit, wouldn't he?
Yeah. There
he
you go,
Davo's caretaker.
And find you the occasional player to sign as well.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Sugar, the first one with Pleat facts.
Our resident historian, Dave.
This director of football thing, it's a big thing, isn't it? Because it's at the minute, it's another stick to beat the club with, because our director of football got done for whatever he did at Juventus, fiddling the books. So, everybody wants, it's a big thing. Spurs getting a director. We haven't got a director of football. No, and I agree. Me and Craig used to say, this is a joke, this Paratici saga. It's embarrassing on the club. But now it's a big thing, and the names are a big thing because we haven't got one. So people can say, look at the state of that. We ain't even got a director. We got no manager, no women's manager, no director of football. It's just easy. It's just an easy target, isn't it? And they're right, to be fair. But the name of the director of football is only big at the minute because it's like a discussion topic you can have around Spurs. Otherwise, like you said, Franco, who gives a shit? We just want to see the team play good football on the pitch, and the guy who sends them out there coaching them. That's all we really care about, isn't it? That's what we should all be caring about.
Yeah, and it'd be great if we could have a director of football that came in and bought some real gems and got some real value for money and unearthed players that we never heard of. Because there's other teams that do it. And it's just frustrating that the directors of football we've got in, they've been a bit hit and miss. Like Comolli signed some really good players. Some of them were dross. Baldini, arguably most of his were dross. The director of football model has not really proved itself at Spurs, has it? It's not really proved itself yet.
Yeah. It was interesting. I do look back at that era with a bit of rose-tinted spectacles, but the Arneson one had real promise, I think. And what I think why I look back at the Arneson one with real fondness, I think, is because it felt like we had a continuity and a structure in place that had that continuity with Joel and with French guy Santini, and then obviously Santini left in the cloud, and then Joel just took over seamlessly, and it just felt all nice. And then obviously Chelsea did Chelsea and ruined that one for us. And
but Craig, didn't it start that Levy brought Arneson in? Levy wanted Santini because he'd won the World Cup or done well with France. Arneson wanted Joel because he thought he was going to be a good manager. But Joel, like we're talking about managers, we're talking about Ange in his CV. Joel's was like, I think it was like NEC Brada or teams like that in Holland.
It was paper thin,
yeah. So Joel sort of agreed to be his assistant manager, even though Arneson wanted him to be manager. So that started off on a bit of a, not joined up thinking what you need, but obviously it works out for the best in the end.
I mean, Santini's style of play. Yeah, Santini's style of play wasn't the best, was it? It was literally 11 parts up against the edge of our box, wasn't it? Literally, the fullbacks never crossed the halfway line, if I remember. Quite interesting.
Yeah, and that's it. And Joel came in like a breath of fresh air. But it was an interesting time that, because like you say, Arneson, he did sign a lot of players. But then we had Davids as well. It was like we were getting these players that we'd only seen on FIFA, and everyone was like, "Wow, look at the stature of Spurs." It's really like, if we got somebody that was in like the twilight of their career right now, people would be like, it's like getting,
Hammers.
Anyway, but yeah, exactly. It's like getting Modric back or something like that. But I'd actually be quite excited if we got Modric back.
Yeah, that'd be good.
it just shows the stature of how things have changed, because then it was like there was so much room to grow, and it did feel like things are on the up. Now there's obviously a lot of room to be made up because we've slipped down the last few years. But I really don't think it's going to take much to turn it around.
That upward trajectory started from a guy whose CV was, like you said, paper thin. But we all started getting behind Joel, didn't we? We all loved him. The players loved him. The media loved him. And we built from there, And where were we finishing? When did Santini come in? What year did Santini come in? Early 2000s, was it? Or was it before then? No, I can't even remember.
I'll tell you, 1 second.
No, it wasn't that long. It was about 18 years ago, so it was probably mid.
Yeah.
1 second.
But what I'm saying is,
he joined us after Euro 2004.
Yeah,
there you go.
But obviously, Santini lasted however long he lasted, and we got rid. But then we started off this trajectory with a bloke who, if you'd have said this is going to be our manager, people would have got like now. You'd be like, what's he? What's right? Has he got?
Oh, sorry, Gibbo, you lost you then. Say it again.
Did you lose me?
Yeah, say that
I'm
again.
just saying that just started all. That just started from a manager that nobody really wanted, didn't it? Where we sort of got to under Poch. I feel all that started under Joel.
Yeah, no, I agree. Here's a little pop quiz. How many clubs did Santini go on to manage after Tottenham?
I don't think he did he?
It was one other club. He went to.
One other club.
Azor in League One, and he was there for a year, less than a year, and he had a conflict with the vice president and was sacked. That was it. End of Santini. Another manager we ruined.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, looking ahead, then, obviously, where do you expect to see us, Franco, next season? What's your aspirations as a season ticket holder with me? I take it you've renewed, by the way.
Yeah, I renewed yesterday.
Yeah. Oh, did you?
Leave it till the very last minute, but then I thought I might forget. Didn't want to risk it. It's difficult because it's just part of your life after you've been going for years and years. I can understand why some people that maybe aren't in that stage think that it's just better off to have a membership or even just have a customer reference number and just be able to buy tickets. Because I don't think I don't think fans are going to want to go and watch Spurs as much as they have done in recent years. I think it's going to be a bit more of a struggle next year to fill that stadium. So I think you can probably get tickets with or without a season ticket. What I want to see next year, like I said, is just a bit of togetherness. I want to see some exciting football at the Lane. I want to hear the crowd again. I want to actually start enjoying going to football and not just having to listen to people moan and groan and chat about how rubbish everything is, which is what it's felt like for a long time now. It's a lot to ask, but I don't think it's that difficult to achieve. I said it on a recent pod, like a handful of players. Obviously, we've got a lot to get rid of, and there's some movement that needs to happen. But like in terms of like a few key players in a few key areas, and also just the style of play and a manager that's like got some conviction in the way that he plays and can get the players behind him. That's all I think we need. I'm not going to say we're going to win the league by any chance, but it's going to be very difficult because there's lots of teams vying for those top four spaces now. But we just need to do something to get a trophy. We need to take one of the competitions seriously. I'd really like that. This year we had such a good opportunity, and we went out to shit teams. And it's just that's the one thing. If we're going to go out of a cup next year, I'd rather it be to one of the top four teams. I don't want to see us going out to some rubbish. Just take those games seriously. That's what fans really seem to want. They've been saying it for years now. We need a trophy. We obviously haven't got European football, so it's going to have to be one of the cups in the League Cup or the FA Cup. Yeah,
I mean, there's no reason, is there, Gibbo, for us to go weak in any competition this year? We aren't battling all fronts. We've got one game a week.
I think get European football back to the Lane, which we can do. Take the cup seriously, and a bit like Franco, I've said on here before, we have got some crap players, but we've got some decent players as well, and a good coach. Because that's what these players need. They need serious coaching, and with a good coach and with a positive, if we're all pushing in the right direction, it can be turned around quick. And I'll keep referencing Villa because they went from literally relegation fodder with the same players. And if they'd started that, if they were on that trajectory a bit earlier, there's a good chance they could have made Champions League. And they turned it around without changing any players. Now they've got a couple of players that get in our team, but not loads of them. So it can be turned around. Loads of clubs do it, so we can. But obviously, we need to see it on the pitch, and the players need to buy into whatever the new coach, whatever he's spinning, they need to buy into it. But it can be turned around. But I do like Frank. We've got to try and push for the cups. The League Cup, we'll go in it early, but the FA Cup it'll be like playing on a weekend, won't it? When we should be playing in the league, so we'll have plenty of time. The coach got plenty of time to work with them. I would have liked to have been in the. We could have won that other European trophy, the Conference League, but won't talk about that now. But obviously, I think that would have been a trophy we could win. But yeah, I think finish as high as you can. Definitely get back into Europe, even if it's the Europa League. A line's drawn in the sand at the end of this season for me, and we go again. But we're not that far off. I think we can do all right.
Yeah. But that is key. Without European football, it's much less to worry about. Don't have to worry about rotating that squad.
My internet's playing up, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. Players being tired. So we've got to take cup competition seriously. There should be no reason why not.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Well, on that bombshell, we're going for an hour. So I think we'll call it a day there for tonight's Wednesday night rambling. We will be back on Friday. Keep an eye on the socials, and we'll let you know who's going to be on and what we'll be talking about. But just to say thank you, Franco, for coming on. Hope you enjoyed the conversation.
Any
No
pods
worries.
coming up, Franco?
I was going to
Well,
ask
no.
that question.
I was going to make a bad joke about me having a fundraiser, but that's a YouTube joke. Some of you will get it.
I've got it.
Yeah, there'll be pods coming up. Davo keeps harassing me. He wants to do all these ones about Tottenham's history and is Daniel Levy the worst chairman ever, things like that. So we're going to push back on some of them. But yeah, there'll be some topical conversations pods as well as like as soon as we start signing players as well, then we obviously have to get the pods out. TikTok. I don't know. I mean, that's the final question. Galore. Yeah, exactly. I keep asking this question on the pod, like, when do you think we're going to get a manager in? And I cynically said it's going to be about 5 minutes after the season ticket renewal closes. But it's got to be soon, hasn't it? I think that's the most important thing. Like, we just can't be pissing around for any longer.
I think my prediction, if you want to keep a record of this, is by Friday the 16th, we will have a manager. That's my prediction. Friday the 16th. So 2 weeks. 2 weeks Friday.
I'm going to say this Sunday.
Oh wow, that is good.
This Sunday.
Franco knows something. He's got it in the know somewhere.
I wish.
I'm going to go.
Where you going, Gibbo?
Wednesday the 7th.
Excellent. All right, so we got Sunday, Wednesday the 7th, and then Friday the 16th.
I agree with Daniel. It is too late.
Yeah,
we are where we are. We can only keep our fingers crossed. I hope our supreme leader does something.
Yeah, exactly. All right, then, guys. Well, thank you ever so much. And last thing to say is, come on, you Spurs.
Nice one, Craig. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.